Here we go. Hello.
Hi.
My name is Melissa Morris. I'm a business operations consultant. I help service providers streamline and automate their processes, namely their client process, onboarding, management, offboarding. I help them streamline and automate these processes so they can spend less time working in their business and more time working on their business. I'm here with Abigail, and we're going to do a free call. But first, I want you to tell me just very quickly what it is you do and who you do it for.
So I'm an intuitive brand designer, and I help people make sure that their magic is not hidden behind bland branding. And I work with people to focus on their mindset and try to transition their brand into something that is focused on who they really are. And I do it for women entrepreneurs who really do prioritize mindset and meditation, journaling, things like that. Those are kind of the clients that I work best with. We're really energetically aligned. So that's what I do.
Awesome. I love that. Okay. So we kind of briefly touched on this. You're starting to get into Dubsado. You're using Trello for project management, and that's the bulk of your tools right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a invoicing, like bookkeeping software that I send proposals through.
Okay.
But that is something that I'm not like super attached to.
Okay.
Like it could change. I mean, it's really easy, but I'm not, it's ZipBooks, but I'm not like super attached to it.
Okay. And Dubsado you can automate the proposal, invoice, contract process through there. So that may be something we want
Yeah,
to
I'm
talk about.
super interested in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, so you have kind of like these branding clients, you have these website clients. Let's take a look at the website clients and tell me about what that process looks like. So when I think of the client onboarding, like we have the sales process, and that's where you're doing your discovery call and any kind of questionnaires associated with that. So in my mind, client onboarding starts at the end of that discovery call when they say, yes, like, yes, I want to work with you. Let's get started. In my mind, that's where onboarding officially starts. So why don't you tell me what would happen? We just finished a discovery call and I was like, Abigail, I love this. Yes, you're gonna do my website work. What happens next?
So I send a email with a proposal. I don't send the proposal through ZipBooks because I don't like the automated look of the email from them.
Okay.
So I send an attached PDF of the proposal, and basically at this point they are already kind of accepted the pricing because I told them on the call. But I send them a proposal just so they can see like an itemized breakdown of everything that they're getting, and then they accept the proposal, and I go into ZipBooks and I can just hit convert to invoice. I send them an email with the invoice, the contract, and the hosting that they need to purchase for me to work with them.
So this is a second email, right?
Yes, this is a second email. So this is after they have accepted the proposal, which the proposal, again, is like more of a formality because usually they've already accepted it, but sometimes not. And then I send the email, and the invoice, the contract, and the hosting, they're all like in different places, which I can't help with the hosting, but like the contract and invoice are all in different places, all like different things for me to keep track of, which I don't love.
No.
And then after that, there really is no process.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I've gotten that far, so.
That's fine. Okay. Now, do you have any questionnaires, anything like that you're sending to clients at some point or going over with them?
I do have a website like questionnaire. Whether I'm writing their copy or not, I have them fill it out. Some people already have their copy written, some people don't. But I have them fill it out, and so I can get a feel for like them and what they want their website to look like. And then we also, I send them a Calendly link to schedule their first coaching call. And that's a 60-minute call. So I do have them fill out the questionnaire, and then they also, so I can have like some written stuff from them, but also I get a lot of that like feel for the project on the call as well.
Okay. So when are you sending the questionnaire and the Calendly link?
After they pay their deposit.
And so this is just a manual email. You wait to see the deposit come through and then you go in and send, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then that's also, is the questionnaire and the Calendly link in the same email, or are these in separate? Perfect. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to continue to kind of like get a feel for what's going on, and then I'll offer some recommendations as we get closer to the end. So we have our first call. Tell me a little bit about the first call.
The coaching call?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially I ask a couple questions. It's what's in the questionnaire, not all of them, but some of the questions that are in the questionnaire that are really pertinent. I ask them in a different way just so I can get a couple different ways of them for answering the same question, if that makes sense.
Okay.
We talk through what they want the website to achieve, how they want people to feel when they're on the website. So I, as a creative, can kind of start capturing that energy and that essence of what the site looks like.
Let me ask you a question real quick. So are you asking the question again because you don't feel like you got a very good answer to begin with, or just because you want to dig deeper?
Dig a little deeper, I think. Okay. So usually if things work out well, they'll have filled out the questionnaire before they book their call. It usually works out that way. So I can, go in and ask and like dig a little bit deeper.
Okay.
But also on a website, you say the same thing so many different times, because on different pages you're saying the same thing, but you need to say it a little differently. So I like to hear them say what they want to achieve.
Totally makes sense. Okay. Totally makes sense. Okay. Go ahead. So you're kind of starting to get a feel then for what's going on. Okay.
We set up a timeline for the project. If they have a deadline or not, we still, set up a rough timeline for the project. Say, this will be finished by then. I need copy from you by this date. And so we set up the dates. I don't give them like a calendar or anything. I probably should, but I don't. And that's essentially, and then like the rest of the call is for them to ask any questions or let me know anything that they feel that we didn't go over already. Mm-hmm. So we just do that. We kind of walk through like what the website's going to look like. But yeah, I'd say the last half hour of the call is pretty open-ended for them to kind of pick my brain on stuff.
So you say you guys set up the timeline together. How varied do these timelines look between client to client?
I would say for like a baseline of, say I only have my standard amount of clients, which is 2 website clients at once, basic project, nothing extra, they look the same. Okay. There are some clients that have like, I'm putting a course on their website, or I'm setting up a store for them. That adds an extra piece to the timeline. But the basic, like the bare bones of it is the same. Okay.
So this question might come off sounding a little rough, and I don't mean it that way. Are you really like asking for their input on how the timeline should be, or like, this is your timeline, this is when we're going to do things by?
Yeah, it's essentially my timeline. I ask for a little bit of input if they say like, I need more time to work on the copy, or I'm not getting my photos back by this time.
Okay.
They can push back on those dates a little bit, but it's usually just for things like that. It's not.
Okay, good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That was what I was hoping for. I didn't want this to be like some fluid timeline you're both building together. It really should be like, here's the timeline for the project. Do we see any stumbling blocks? If the photographer can't get the photos by that day, like there's nothing either you or your client can really do about that. So
that's it. Sense. Because and I don't want it to be, they come to me on October 23rd and they're like, I need my site done by the end of the month. I show them the timeline, like it doesn't work like that.
Right. Good. Okay. So then throughout the process of building the website, what would you say are some of like the biggest struggles or roadblocks or bottlenecks along the way?
I think the biggest problem I have, and it's not a problem I have with everybody, but when I do have it, it's completely disruptive, is they know what they want, but they don't tell me until after I put stuff on the page. Like I will do the first draft of the site and they'll be like, no, I actually want it to look like this. And I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me that from the beginning of the project? I just went through laying out the site. And then I kind of look at my process and I don't know where I didn't make that clear that I need to know what they want it to look like, because I feel like I've asked those questions. But they don't include any of that information in their questionnaire or whatever. Like, I have a spot on the questionnaire for them to basically put any visual stuff, whether it be a Pinterest board or a website that they really want to emulate, that they really enjoy. And I still get tripped up with this. So that's like a big problem. I would say my second largest problem is just not getting like the tech stuff done in time. Like buying the hosting and getting me passwords and things like that can take like a week or a week and a half, where, you know, we're losing that on the timeline. The whole timeline has to shift, because if I can't get into the site, I can't do anything.
Right. Do you know why that's a stumbling block? Of them not getting, so they have to go in and buy their own hosting and then get you the information, correct?
Yeah. So for some people, I guess they just say, oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. And then they don't do it. Some people are great and they just get it done, and they send me the, like, as soon as I send the email, they send me the login right after.
Right.
But some people, it's not that easy, or they send me the wrong login. Like, they send me their WordPress login and not their hosting login, which is like,
right.
For me, it seems really simple, and I know that it's not for other people who don't deal with it every day.
That's exactly where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
If that's a big roadblock and people are failing to get it to you, and because it's a techie kind of thing, my guess is people are putting it off because they're going like, oh God, like, what do I do? How do I do this? This sounds hard. Whether it's a 10-minute thing or not, they're like, this sounds hard. I don't know that I want to do this. So at what point do you need that? I wonder if we should even be getting that, like bumping that deadline way up much earlier than you're asking for it.
I need it like basically as soon as they pay their deposit. Like, I need it as soon as possible. Because even if we haven't had our first call yet, there's things that are standard for every website that I can be in there setting up before, that just take that much longer to do if I have to wait a week to get the thing.
And when are you asking them for this hosting information? You're with the contract and invoice, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Are you sending any kind of reminder emails? Are you giving a due date as to when that needs to be done?
I don't send a due date, actually. That's a good point. I basically just say, I do say in the email, like, that I can't start the website without the hosting. So while it's not like a date thing, I'm like, we're not going to start until you send this to me.
Absolutely give a specific date.
Okay.
Absolutely. And at that point, you guys haven't even really talked about the timeline. Like, they haven't had their first call with you. They don't really know, your process. You know that immediately you can go in and start doing things. They don't know that. So I would definitely be much more blatant in that email that says, hey, as soon as I get this invoice, I'm going to start digging into your stuff, and I'm going to be doing things on the back end. So your first order of business is to get this hosting set up and get me the information. And it has to be done no later than this date, or in advance of our first call, by our first call. Give them some very specific day or time that they have to get it done by, because if you kind of leave it up to them, or leave it as like these kind of vague deadlines, is like, well, I can't really start. Well, when did you plan on starting it anyway? Right? Like, maybe she's not even getting to mine in 2 weeks. I got plenty of time, right? Or that as soon as possible. What does as soon as possible mean? So very specific time. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that will help with that bottleneck. When we're talking about the bottleneck of kind of not really knowing what it looks like, talk to me a little bit more about that, the situation where you're kind of getting a lot of work done and they're like, oh, I didn't want it to look that way.
Yeah. So essentially with a lot of people, if they don't put what they want the website to look like, they don't put any inspiration, they don't, whether it be they tell me verbally or they put it in their questionnaire, I take that as, okay, I'm going to go ahead and lay something out, we'll make some minor changes and it'll look like your brand, but, and sometimes that works. Like, sometimes people are like, yeah, I wanted you to just go ahead and be creative, just do it.
Right.
And then some people, while usually they like most of it, but they're like, oh, I wanted this specific thing to look like this. And I have to like redo the whole page. And I'm like, that would have been something that would be really helpful to mention before I did it.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a couple thoughts on that. Do you have a question on your questionnaire that says something specific, like these things have to be done this way? Don't do these things?
No, I don't.
Okay. So I would include those two questions on your questionnaire. Is these are must-haves for me. Like I want my logo gigantic and in the middle of the front page, right? Like what, please no one do that. I know you're shuddering as I'm saying that, but are these like, or like it has to have baby pink everywhere. Like it just has to have that and it has to be really super pretty. Or like, I absolutely hate the color blue. I hate when people put picture banners up there. Like have them just even say like what they love and things they hate. I think that could be useful.
Yeah, I have that sort of. I'm like, is there any website, just like a website that makes you feel icky and like you don't like it? But a lot of people like, they don't, because I've asked people like what they don't like and they don't like things, but they don't know why. So I just say like, look at something and tell me like whether you like it or not. But they don't, a lot of people leave it blank. So do you think it would be helpful if I like posted photos of like a couple very different websites and be like, can you pick like which ones look good and which ones don't?
I would make it required. I would just make all the form fields required.
Okay.
Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's starting to sound like the people who don't give you a lot of direction are then the ones who come back and say, this isn't how I wanted it to look.
Yeah, more often than not, yeah.
Right. So they have got to give you direction then. And if that means they're required to send you 3 to 5 images that they love, or 3 to 5 images that they hate, or whatever that might be, you just have got to start getting more feedback from them on what they do or don't want. I think there's a couple of ways that you could do that. When we're talking about it on a questionnaire, there's a couple of reasons they may not be doing it on the questionnaire. One, they're feeling pressed for time. They're like, I don't want to do this. I don't have time or space to do this. If I don't have, I'm just going to leave it blank. I'm just going to leave it blank. Or option two, maybe they're not really sure yet what they want, which is an indicator to you that they need a little more hand holding on what they want. Because you have to remember, you're a designer, your brain thinks like that. It sees that. It thinks, oh, this is sleek and modern. This is really pretty and this and that. I'm sitting over here that's like, I don't know, like I go to the Target website a lot, but I don't want it to look like Target. You know what I mean? Like that's from a person who doesn't have that mindset, or I may not even realize that everything I love is like a very modern feel, or everything I love is a really more masculine feel, right? So I would say, I'm almost inclined to say if they're not filling it out on the questionnaire, even if you make it a required field, you're likely going to get some kind of half-assed answers.
Okay.
So I would recommend then almost like dedicated time where you're talking and really digging into like creative images. And maybe you even have a couple of Pinterest boards already put together, Pinterest boards other people have already done for you, and say like, here are some looks and feels. What is kind of sticking out to you? What are you really hating? So I don't know that I would get too specific on like, do you like this? Or, you know what I mean? This or this, but kind of give them like a feel and a vibe and then ask them more questions. But I suspect that those people just need more hand holding on because they probably don't know what they want until they do it.
Yeah. I do have a Pinterest board of branding and then one of websites that I say, can you pick 3 images that you like? But I like the idea of like separating them by feel, and because then they can see multiple images and be like, okay, yeah, I definitely like this, or okay, I definitely don't.
Right. Because it can be hard to tell from one image, but if I see 3 or 4 images and I'm like, man, I like, 3 of these 4 images, but only 1 of these 4 images, I can start to get a better feel. And again, this may take a little more work up front of you putting together a couple of Pinterest boards, but it's going to save you so much time. Yeah.
And it benefits them, which makes me feel good because, I mean, my process is about making them have a great experience. And if I show them a website and they're like, no, this is not what I want it to look like at all, then like they're not having the best experience they can. So I definitely would be willing to put in the work.
Good. Yeah. And I would consider too, having a bit of dedicating some of that call to saying like, let's just kind of look at some of this together. What do you like about this? What didn't you like about these over here? Here are some of the things I can envision happening with this website if we went in this direction. How is that feeling to you? Just hold their hand a little bit more during their process, because they're likely on their own kind of struggling, and they're almost like, well, I didn't know I was going to hate this until I saw it. And now I kind of like, now I suddenly quite realize what I do want. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what else is going on in the process of building the website? How does like client communication back and forth? Is there anything else they're failing to get you on time? How is feedback looking?
I don't think so. And I have recently like updated my feedback and like asking for feedback. Like I ask specific questions now instead of being like any changes.
Okay.
Ask more specific questions. I think as far as client communication goes, the only thing that is a problem is more on my end is if I need to find something, like it's all in a million email threads, and like I have a hard time finding, like if I need to find information and like I can search a keyword, but if that's actually not in the email I'm looking for, I have to search through 50 emails to find what I want. That slows me down a lot.
Okay. And so what type of information are you looking for in these emails?
Sometimes I'm looking for photos that they've sent me. I'm looking for passwords. So like I do keep the passwords in the client card on Trello, but sometimes I don't like keep passwords for obscure little things that I need that like aren't the website.
Okay.
And then I'm also just looking for, did they say they liked, like, they wanted everything to be pink? Like, did they say that like they liked blue, or they blah, blah, blah? Like, because sometimes minor things come up in emails that don't come up in the questionnaire that I just want to check back on.
Okay. And so what are you managing in the Trello board?
The Trello board, I have the onboarding and offboarding, and then the process, which I do specifically for each different client. And I like put the timeline in there for myself. I mean, I have like a template of like the bare bones of the process, but I add like different things. And then I keep their password to their website and their website URL.
Okay. Would we be able to look at the template?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just pull this up. So I actually have a client whose password is not in her card, so we can look at that.
Okay.
Is there a way to screen share?
Yeah, it will record. That's okay, right?
Yeah.
Sensitive. Okay. Yeah, you should be able to share.
How do I do that?
Go down on the bottom, that little bar that pops up where you can end the meeting.
Can
you share? You see it?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Share. Okay. So this is a client that I just finished up with her. And usually like up here in the description, I would put the password and the website URL so I can log in easily. And then I have like her process and stuff.
Okay.
And then I have the offboarding and stuff. So that's what it looks like. This one was before I did timelines. So usually they would have like a date after certain things. But yeah, this is essentially like what it looks like. It's pretty simple. It's a new thing I've been trying.
And so they just have a card, or does everybody have a whole board?
Everyone has a card.
Just a card. Okay. And this is what everybody's card looks like.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay. So let me go down to the design process. And how many calls are you having with them? Just the one coaching call?
Just one.
Okay. And that works well?
Yeah. Unless like I have a client right now that we're working on like a course and e-commerce stuff. So we have a couple other calls just because we have so much to go over. But usually just the one, and then everything else is handled via email. Okay.
But it sounds like there's a lot of conversations going on via email.
Yes, a lot.
Okay. And how long does the process take to get one of the websites? Like kind of a standard website?
A month.
About a month. Okay. You can go ahead and stop screen sharing and we'll talk some more.
Oh, stop share. Okay, cool.
Okay. So make a note here. Okay. So now I'm going to share with you my thoughts. So when it comes to onboarding, and I know you just got Dubsado, so I know this was part of your intention, but to help you get more clear on that, for sure, Dubsado can automate the proposal, contract, invoice process. So that's all going out just in one simple email. Now, you mentioned your proposal is kind of like those deliverables, right? Like just those key points again, which I love and which is always what I recommend. So within Dubsado, you can connect the proposal, contract, invoice. So it's actually just one link. It comes in the email. The person can click the link and boom, up pops the proposal. And that's what I recommend the proposal include is like, here are your deliverables. Let's just remind each other that this is what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. They have to say like, yes, submit. Like, I've read this, that looks good. Then they get the contract. And that's obviously all the legal stuff. They sign off on the contract. And then here's the invoice where they can pay the deposit, whatever's going on there, right? Get that taken care of. Within your automated workflow, you can automate all of this experience. So that goes out. And then after they have signed the contract, that's when the next email just automatically goes out. Mm-hmm. Now, what I didn't hear you talk about was an expectations email. Do you have like a how I work email, what working with you looks like document, anything of that sort?
Nope.
Okay. So
I've never heard of it.
Okay. I would definitely, I call it an expectations email. Other people call it like a how I work email. Pretty much just something that says like, this is what you can expect during our time together, right? So I recommend you have 4 things in it. You're going to have how they should be communicating with you. Right now that's via email. I'm going to kind of make some recommendations on that, on how we can tighten that up a little bit for you. So you want your meeting details, or how they can reach you, meeting details. This is how many calls we're going to have. This is what we're going to do on the first call. Just give them a quick breakdown of what that's going to look like, what you need from them. So this is going to say, I need hosting information. I will need photos. I will need whatever those pieces look like, right?
Would I send the questionnaire then? Because I need to get that back from them, or?
Yes. Okay. So in your expectations email, you're going to have this is what it looks like to work with me. This is how you can reach me. These are my working hours, all that good stuff, right? Okay. This is what I need from you. Including in that what I need from you would be this client questionnaire.
Okay.
And what I'm also going to recommend you do is, and I don't know if this needs to be an additional call or is just that first coaching call, but you include the link to schedule their first call within this expectations email. Mm-hmm. This also can be done through Dubsado. You can set up forms and questionnaires in Dubsado, and it all links in there. So they'll automatically get their expectations email. There'll be a button within there that says, this is what I need from you. Lastly, and some of the things may be like, I will need hosting information in a timely fashion. I will need your photos and this and that. We'll be discussing a timeline. I will need your buy-in and support on a timeline. I need you to fill out this questionnaire. They go on and fill out the questionnaire. And then you're also going to ask them to schedule that call, right? Also, what I always recommend too is in part of your questionnaire, the last question, did you schedule your call? Yes or no? And then make it a required field. This way we know they're getting the call scheduled. They haven't forgotten. If they're getting distracted by the questionnaire, you know that that's getting taken care of.
Yeah. Is there a way that if like once they submit the questionnaire, then they get a link to schedule the call?
You can do it that way.
Okay. Because I mean, I would like to ensure that they finish the questionnaire before they've scheduled their call. Okay. Because sometimes people will schedule their call for like the next day. And I'm like, I love that you want to get started.
Oh, okay.
I need more information from you first.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in that situation, yes, you can absolutely have a bit of a delay in there. Mm-hmm. Something else that could be done is just batching your work a little bit more and knowing that these certain calls are only going to happen at this certain time. So even if they schedule now, it's not going to show availability till, next week or whatever. But that's fine. You could absolutely do it that way as well, where they have to have the questionnaire completed and then the email goes out where they're scheduling the call. When it comes to the hosting information, I would also send that I would probably actually do that in its own email because it is so important.
Okay.
When you have it going out with contract, invoice, and hosting, right now they're just thinking about like, I got to pay her, get on the books, and I can do the other stuff later, right? Like that's kind of where their mindset is in. If you're bundling it up with a questionnaire, that again, it can feel like a techie, time sensitive or a time heavy task. Like, I don't know if I want to dig into all of this right now. And then now things are kind of getting on pause. So I would almost recommend that becomes like its own standalone email and task. Like, yay, I've gotten your invoice. I need to start doing some things right away on the back end of the website. You need to get the hosting stuff. Now, do you offer them a video tutorial of how to do it?
Yes.
Okay. And you send that to them, or do you just ask them if they want it?
No, I send it to them.
Okay, perfect. So then in the email, say, I need you to go and do this. I need you to do it by this date. Here's a video tutorial if you need help. And I would even offer them, like, if you need to schedule a time with me to get it walked through, or you want us to do this on your would they be able to do it on the first call, or do you want it in advance of the first call?
They can do it on the first call. That's fine.
Okay. So then maybe even too, if it's not done, that's like an agenda item on your first call is, okay, then we're going to walk through and do this. So you're going to need to be ready to do it right now. But in other words, we're forcing them to get it done and forcing them to get it done in a timely fashion, but also helping them and supporting them along the way if this is feeling a bit like a scary thing for them to take on and do. So I would have that be its standalone piece. So in your instance, then you're going to have the email that goes out, proposal, contract, invoice. Then you will add to your workflow the sending out of the questionnaire, and then you will add to your workflow the scheduling, and then you will add the workflow of here's your hosting information.
Okay.
When it comes to the actual project, I think you're finding lots of email back and forth. I would almost recommend, so you can do this one of two ways. You can either have more of like a Trello board, because your process right now internally it's not really documented anywhere, like how you're handling your client things, because it's just that card. So we're not really having, or I didn't see anywhere where you're keeping track of, I've done this, I have this, other than like very high level, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. It would be worth your while to, as you're going through these projects, be drilling down deeper into that, because as your business grows, as you're feeling like you maybe want to bring on additional support or this or that, you're going to find that's super, super useful. And it's better to have it in place now than down the road, because when you are wanting to grow and you're bringing on more and more clients, now you're too busy to go back and do this stuff. You're too busy to train people. And now you're kind of in like that burnout space.
Okay.
So I would recommend like really getting deeper into what's happening as you're working through these websites, because when you have two, it's pretty easy to keep it straight and kind of know like, this is what I've got going on. But then you have 3, and then you have 4. And now maybe you have, even just 4 projects at one time, you're going to be going, wait, what did I? And that's why you're finding your social media like, wait, what did they say they like? So I would recommend doing that. If you're doing that, you're probably going to have a little bit more of a Trello board where you're having the different pieces of that project living on this board. Communication with your client could actually be happening on the Trello board. Hey, do you like this? Yes or no. Hey, do you like that? You're kind of tagging them. You could kind of be working on this board together in that design space. Option 2, especially, could be a good working option for you now, considering you don't already have that template Trello board set up. I would actually recommend maybe even like a weekly stand-up or something with your client. Maybe it's a weekly email, a quick 10 or 15 call once or twice a week to just kind of cover some of these things so that you're not doing so much email back and forth. And then again, I think really working though towards getting a Trello board built out, because then that's where the notes from those emails are getting put into someone's board. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I guess I would see it more as like a card for one client and then having like the different, or like, I don't really know what they're called. And then like having a list for like each part, but like, I don't know if I could put enough stuff in a whole board. Because I get the notes are like important and stuff. And also like for me, I need it to be like as simple as possible, because in like, even like if I have my clients communicating with me through Trello, like I will get overwhelmed and not check it.
Okay.
Because I'm going to be like, oh my God, I have a million things to check. Like, this is too much. Like, I checked Asana, like I have to check Trello and see if any my email.
Right.
So I think I would like to keep it more like internal, but I do like the idea of like just having each person's section or whatever be more detailed and have like, you know, this is what they like creatively. This is what where their copy lives. Like things like that would be
yes, exactly those kind of things.
helpful.
And so 2 thoughts on that. One, just because we have the ability to make this big, gigantic board does not mean you have to, right?
Okay.
There could be 4 columns with several cards underneath, and that's fine,
Okay.
right? Or maybe there's the list, and then you have a card with 2 or 3 checklists in it. And like each list is a client. So it's maybe
that's what I'm thinking.
There you go. So you have one board, this is a client, and then that one client has maybe like 6 cards underneath it, but each card digs deeper into what do they like design wise, what do they have going on, put their timeline in there, have those pieces in there. And then exactly. So then that information that's like coming in through email, if you're like, ooh, I'm going to need to remember that, I can send that over. Like I can copy and paste that in there. So then I'm not searching for it. And in the moment you might be thinking like, oh, now I got to copy and paste it into Trello. Right. I could take 2 seconds to do that now, or I could spend 15 minutes looking through emails in 4 days because I can't remember.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I totally understand the not wanting to have the client work in the Trello and mentions there. You want to make it work for how your brain works too. And if you know yourself and you know all that's going to start to feel overwhelming, then for sure don't do that. I would also try and have, I didn't notice it on there, but I know you had like those kind of check marks of things you were doing internally. Are there certain checkpoints too along the way with your client, like approval for this, sign off on that?
Yeah. Basically just like, did I get feedback on the first draft? And then like, did I make those changes? Did I ask for more feedback? Like things like that.
I may consider, because you've had a lot of email back and forth, now start with the Trello board first, dig deeper, be putting your notes there and see what that starts to do for the email overwhelm feeling. But if you're still finding you're doing a lot of back and forth with clients via email, consider incorporating just a couple of quick, like 10-minute check-in phone calls where you can hop on and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this, and that. What do you think? Let's talk it out. Okay, cool. Let's press on. I share this example a lot because I just think it's so powerful. We tend to, because we have the ability to do things so just virtually and via email or text or whatever, we kind of forget that sometimes we can just call somebody and solve a problem very, very quickly. I worked with somebody, she had an 8-week-long process. We added 3 calls with her clients to that process. She saves 4 hours on every project. And we added 3 calls. Like it almost seems counterintuitive, but it just like streamlined things so much more. So definitely work to dig deeper on the Trello board and then look for those spots where, you know what, a quick 10 or 15-minute phone call might make a lot of sense right here. Because it would have eliminated these 5 emails if we'd have just had a 10-minute phone call.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and the more you go through that, the more you'll see that. Okay, and so then last, as we're getting into offboarding, what does client offboarding look like?
Offboarding is actually something I'm pretty comfortable with. I send them, for websites, I send them a video on how to use their website. Okay. And I do it personal for each client so that they're not like, what is this person's website? Like, because some people just need to see like in the context of their own site.
Yeah.
So basically like how to edit text and photos. And because that's like part of my process is I want to give them something usable. I don't want to give them something like super high level that they need me to manage every month. And then I will send them testimonial questions, and their actually I'll send them their final invoice to pay their balance. And then in about 3 days ish, I send them testimonial questions. And then I follow up with that. And then once they answer the testimonial questions, a week after that, I ask for a referral.
Okay. And are you still doing that manually?
Yes.
Okay. That can be automated through Dubsado also, if you wanted. That the functionality is there. That's totally doable. You've got good things there. You're setting them up for success with the video, how to use it. You're asking for the testimonial. You're asking for the referral. The only other thing that you may find useful is a bit of an exit survey. How did this experience go? Did we accomplish your goals? Is there anything you would have wanted to change about this? That would be the only thing that you may want to add if you think that would be beneficial. That feedback can be really valuable sometimes in helping you just internally with your own process.
Well, those are a little bit like in my questions that I asked to get a testimonial, those are a little bit in there.
Okay.
And I tell them, I say, I'm not going to use all of this for the testimonial,
Okay.
so feel free to just tell me whatever.
Okay.
So I kind of combine those two steps there.
Okay. And that's fine. I think that works fine too. For sure. Okay. So just to kind of recap, you definitely have space to automate, right? For sure in the onboarding process with the contract, the email. And I think getting all of that stuff happening in one place is just so much easier, right? Versus feeling like you're grabbing and pulling from a lot of different places. And so on the onboarding and the offboarding piece, you can for sure get those set up, automated, and just get everything kind of living in Dubsado. And then when it comes to the client management piece, I think you just absolutely need to build out what the workflow looks like there and dig deeper. And I know it can almost feel like, well, I know what to do. Like, why would I write that down? As your business grows, though, it's just going to be invaluable. It's just going to be really invaluable to having help and support, even if it's a matter of a VA going in and making sure on a checklist that you have photos, copy, blah, blah, whatever those 3 or 4 checkpoints are, and by X date. And having that timeline there so that they can actually check and confirm that. That's just, having a more detailed approach to how you're building out the websites and digging a little deeper into that is just going to make it so much easier for you to take on more clients because you're going to be able to get some support and not spend as much time kind of going back through email and double checking on things and searching for things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Okay, good. Do you have any final questions for me?
I don't think so. This was really good. I definitely accomplished what I wanted to because I like getting like homework. That's kind of the way I work with like being coached and stuff. I love getting homework because I can just take an afternoon and just kind of dig in, and I think it's fun. So I'm excited. This is great.
Good. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm so glad you found it useful.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely reach out if you have any more questions, okay?
Of course. Yeah.